It's been a while since I made a video, so I thought I'd make one about my new boy. Well, this is Naz. He's my Soom Chalco that I've had for a few years. And I thought I'd kind of do a comparison video with the new one. Here he is, with a not finished face up that I'm probably just going to restart. He is a Soom Benmore. I have all of his parts except for his antlers. I traded that Vokes SD17 body for him, so I thought that was a decent trade. He's just wearing a spare wig and eyes that I had, because I don't really have anything for him yet. But he's on the new Soom body, and Naz is on the old one. So as you can see, there's already quite a big difference. Like, he doesn't have a waist joint, and Naz has a waist joint, and the chest joint on him is higher up. And just the overall structure of the body, Naz is very square, and he's got a bit more curve, and he's a lot wider if you look at them from the side, which we're not really going to do today. And they've actually got the same style of fantasy legs, with having just the ankle joint and then the knee joint. They don't have the third joint in their hawk like the Heliot did, or the older Soom. Well, some of the new Sooms still have the 3-joint system, like the Arcos had that. But a lot of their newer ones just have this 2-joint system, which is okay. I mean, they can't really sit with it, because their hooves just pull them off the table because they're so heavy. So they can't pose as much, and they're a lot more awkward to hold and whatnot, but it's just one less joint to deal with, which is kind of nice. But getting back to the body, he actually has the mobility thigh joint, which I think is the worst idea ever, because his hips, I don't know why, but he's just constantly flopping because of it. And I would show you the joint, but taking him apart and putting him together is a nightmare, so I really don't want to do that right now. I'll do that another day, but like, I've sueded all up in his hips, or whatever you want to call that joint, the swivel joint, and he just constantly flops forward, and it's awful. And I think part of it might be the way he's strung, because he has this weird disc inside of here, which is the mobility piece. He's actually strung with 3 strings. He's got one for his arms, and then he's got one just for in his torso and his head, and then he's got one just for his legs that loops around. But when you pick him up, you can, like, his legs kind of pop out, and I don't want to pick him up because standing him back up's a real pain. But it's a really weird system, and I'm trying to figure out if I can string him all on one string to kind of fix that, but I don't know. And Soom did their very best to hide all traces of seeing the elastic. Like, if you look at his arms, you don't see the elastic in the joint. Like, this part up here, you're like, oh wow, it's a double joint, but it's actually not. It's only a single joint. And this notch up here is completely fake. It doesn't do anything. If you wanted to, you could probably Dremel it out and use it as a joint, but this upper notch does nothing. Like, he can't move his arm beyond the way it is positioned now. Like, it just doesn't bend. I don't know what they were doing with that. And then the bottom part, as you can see, has this kind of notch in it, which hides the elastic. You can still see the elastic a bit, but it does hide it. And then on his wrists, he has this little crescent moon piece which pops out all the time. And again, it just hides the elastic so you don't see it. And then his hands are completely magnetic, and I don't know, I think they should have used a little bit of a stronger magnet because it's constantly popping off, but whatever. And then, so far I haven't found any S-hooks at all in his body. His hooves actually have like a little hook on the bottom of them made out of resin that the elastic hooks onto, which is kind of nice. And then I think, like I said, his hands are magnetic, so I think that the part, his wrist, might have an S-hook attaching it to the string. I don't know. I didn't see that when I got him. He came to me in pieces, but she had left his arms completely strung, so there might be an S-hook hiding in here. And then his head has this really weird thing in it. It kind of looks like a crescent moon that the elastic hooks into, and show that in a bit, I guess, because that's not a huge deal to take apart. But it's really, really weird, and they just did their absolute best so you don't see any of the elastic, which I think is a good idea, but some of it just could have been done better. And then, like in Naz, you can, well, actually, I mean, he's got a true double joint. I mean, he's got the old elbows, so it's not the greatest, but then you see the elastic in there, his, oh, sorry, there's a zoom in on his crotch by accident. You can see the elastic in here, and then he's got S-hooks in his hooves, and S-hooks in his wrist, S-hook in his head. But he doesn't have S-hooks, except maybe in his wrists. I have yet to find out. But like I said, I will take him apart one day and make a video about how he's put together. Like, I did do a box opening video of him, and it was such a nightmare trying to put him together that I was like, no, I am not posting this. It's taken me half an hour to figure it out. And if you put the little disc things that are in his legs in the wrong way, then they just don't go together properly, and they weren't marked, so I had no idea how they went in. It was just the weirdest thing, and I think, like I said, it's the mobility joint, so I think that the non-mobility one doesn't have that, so it's probably easier to put together, and it probably is more stable. Just doesn't have as much movement, I guess. I haven't seen the non-mobility joint one or played with it, so I don't know how the posing and the movement is different. So I can't really say much about that. Otherwise, I haven't played with him a whole lot, so I'm not sure exactly how great his posing is. I swayed all of him right away. Oh, as you can see, he's already flopping forward. Stand up, you. Like, I'm not sure how great his posing is because I haven't played with him a whole lot. I mean, he poses arms like that. Stop flopping forward. Stay. Yeah, he can move his arm about that much, and that's it. And then the wrist needs to be swayed. Everything had to be swayed in him. Like, he was just a nightmare. And then I did restring him and tighten him a few times. I didn't do his arms, though, so maybe that would help with the problem. And his head I had to sway for sure. It was awful. This is the weird moon thing that's in his head. As you can see, it's very weird. You have to, well, the way I put it in, which is kind of a pain in the butt, is that I loop the elastic through the moon, and then I shove the elastic up through this notch. So he's got more of a face plate than he does. Well, I guess this is still a head cap. But it's a larger head cap. So you can see it goes rather far down on his skull. I'm not sure if it really makes doing face-ups any much easier. It's not exactly a true face plate because, I mean, the base is still on the face part of his head, not on the head cap. But it's a really weird system. I would actually like to replace it with an S-hook because trying to get this in and out is a pain in the butt, and I have to use my fingers to do it, but there's not a lot of room to do that, and the elastic is just really hard to fight with, so I'm not too sure if I like it a whole lot. I mean, it's just Soom trying to get rid of S-hooks, so whatever. And then the head cap's really weird because it's got these really thin pieces, and then this extremely thin pointy bit that goes, well, in this notch. I don't like that very much on his human head, actually, and I knew this when I was getting the trade, but these parts were all busted off because the previous owner, I guess, dropped it by accident. So this is all busted off, and even though it's busted off, it doesn't affect the head cap from sitting on his head at all, so they're really not needed. This part was fine, miraculously, but these two ledge pieces were all busted off, so I don't really know what the point of them are. But whatever, I mean, and then his head cap goes on fairly easily. And I think the magnet in it's a little bit weaker than in other head caps, and as usual, because that resin is so thin, you can see the magnet through the resin, which I absolutely hate. Like, Soom has just not mastered making their resin thick enough in certain areas. I mean, yes, you are putting a magnet in there, but either find, like, a thinner magnet, or just make it a bit thicker, because that just really scares me, and they do it in all of their dolls, and it's always most noticeable on the white skin dolls, but they do it all the time, and it's just really annoying. Okay, so turning them sideways, you can see he's a lot more curvier than Naz is. Naz is very straight, and he's got a lot of curve in there. And their legs, like I said, they're pretty much the same way. I mean, they have been re-sculpted, so his are a bit more buff to match the style of the body. And then Naz, you're leaning really far forward. Oh well. Naz stands like a rock, so I'm not too worried about him. And then the hooves are pretty much the same idea. And I guess I'll turn them around and show their backs. Okay, so there's a lot more detail in the new back of the new body, and the Naz has mods that I did, but that's not important. Oh, his butt's certainly more bubblier than Naz's flat butt. Oh, well, they didn't hide the elastic in his legs. But yeah, very different. Naz is, again, way more boxy than this guy is. He's way more curved, more defined. It's a really nice body, just the way they put it together and all the weirdness they did to it, I don't know. And yeah, I'm not sure what else to say about it. It's a very nice body, but it's just really weird. So once I play with it more and figure out how it poses exactly, I just haven't had time to play with him much, then I'll post a video about the posing and about taking it apart and showing all the weird pieces it has. But for now, you just get this quick video. Your derpy horns.